Today we're going to talk about data validation. Data validation is a way to protect your worksheet by restricting what can be entered into a particular cell. Let's just jump into our first example here. In cell A1 I have the word sales, and so in cell B1 we need to enter the amount of the sales. But let's suppose that we know, for example, that sales can never be more than $100,000. And if someone were to enter sales greater than $100,000, that would indicate a mistake. So we can set it up so that in cell B1 they are restricted to where they can't enter anything bigger than $100,000. To do so, let's click on Data, and then we're going to go to Data Validation. And notice we pull up three tabs. The first tab is the most important of them all. The first tab says Settings. Right now you'll see that the data validation is allowing any value to be entered into this cell. Let's click the downward arrow and we have some options. We can restrict it to a whole number, a decimal, a list, a date, time, and so forth. Let's just go with whole number for now. And then it pops up another box where we can select between, not between, equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Now in our case, we said that the maximum acceptable value would be $100,000. So there are a couple ways we could do this, but probably the easiest one is said that we want to restrict this to a number that is less than or equal to, and then we'll simply type in our $100,000. And let's press OK. Now let's get back to that cell and type in a bigger number. And notice what happens. I get an error message. The message isn't particularly useful. It says the value you have entered is not valid. A user has restricted values that can be entered into this cell. Well, that's good. Let's see if we can make this a little bit more useful though. Let's cancel that. Let's go back to my data validation. And this time let's give it an error alert. The third tab, error alert. Now notice right now, this is really important, that my style is stop, which means it is completely stopping invalid data. There's no way to get past it. Let's type in a title for a message, perhaps invalid number entered. And then we want to give them a customized error message. You have entered a value greater than $100,000. Only values of $100,000 or less may be entered. All right, let's tell it OK. Let's go back. Type in a big number. This time it still gets stopped, but notice now my error message makes more sense. Invalid number entered. You've earned a value greater than 100,000. Only values of 100,000 or less may be entered. So at least now we understand what the restriction is in that cell. Notice again my method here is I have been stopped. I cannot get past this. I can retry, okay, and I can't get past it. I'm going to cancel that. All right, let's get back to my data validation. Let me show you there are some options to just stopping. The next option is says warning. Let's select the warning option and see. Let's tell it OK. Again, go back and enter my number. I get the same error message, but now I have the option that yes, I can continue. Even though that is invalid data, I can continue. It will accept it. Now in our cases, I'm going to tell you that we need to stop, completely stop invalid data. So we wouldn't want the warning approach. There is another option out there also, and it says information. Let me just show you how that one works. When I enter the invalid data, it gives me the message, but all I do is I click OK. So that is in no way stopping the invalid data. So if we want to completely stop the invalid data, we have to select the stop option instead. I want to show you the other tab which says input message. Input message is something that will appear when you click in that cell. It will be the nice friendly upfront warning, not telling somebody they made a mistake, but telling them in advance that there's a restriction on what goes in this cell. So let's go to my title. Limitation on amount, perhaps. There's nothing really right or wrong about these messages in terms of as long as they make sense and tell the user exactly what the restriction is. Only values equal to $100,000 or less may be entered into this cell. Let's tell it OK. Click away. click back in that cell, and you see now it automatically shows that message. This is not an error message because we haven't entered anything yet, but this automatically appears just as a warning for anyone who's going to enter data so that they will be aware of the restriction before they get started. So if I enter in my big number again, notice I've been warned in advance. Now I get told again that I've made a mistake and what the restriction is. Can't get past it because I had it in the stop mode. Now, what if that $100,000 is a figure that's going to change? Maybe this month the limit might be $100,000. Next month it might be $150,000. Well, what we could do is I'm going to come over here into F1 and type in the word limit. And in G1, I'll type in the 100,000. Again, my assumption here is that the 100,000 may change from one period to the next, the limit. I'm going to go back here, back to my data validation, back to my settings. I'm going to allow a whole number less than or equal to, but I'm not going to type it in this time. Instead, I'm going to click in that cell, tell it OK. Let's go type in my number. I get the error message. All right, let's cancel that. Let's go back and change my limit, though. Now I'm going to make it 150,000. If I go back, type in my big number this time, it's underneath the 150,000. Now the data validation is not comparing to 100,000, but comparing to whatever is in cell G1. It says, well, that number is less than 150,000, so it's okay. I'm not going to give them the error message. If I give it a number bigger than 150,000, you see I get my error message again. Now, of course, my customized error message no longer is appropriate, and I would have to come back and reword it somewhat also. But just want you to see you can either type in the $100,000 limitation or you can have it referring to a cell reference instead. Let me show you one other method of data validation that I think is kind of neat on another sheet. I'm going to enter the mattress size. Now, let's suppose that we sell sheets or beds or such, and we want to make sure whatever someone enters here for the mattress size will be an acceptable amount. Well, again, I go back to my data validation. I'm going to allow, well, I'm going to go down to list. Now, I can type these into a cell and compare to the cell, but instead, I'm going to actually type it in now. Okay, just directly in here. Twin, comma, double, comma, queen, comma, king. Let's tell it okay. Notice, if I click back here, do you see I have a downward arrow now? Let's click that. And now I can move down and select whichever one that I would like. Now notice I can type in something else. I give my error message. User has restricted values that can be entered into this cell. But again, that's not very customized. So let's cancel that. Let's go back to my data validation. Input message, just mattress size for the title. Please select the appropriate mattress size from the drop-down list. Tell it OK. Click away, click back to it. Do you see that that message automatically appears, just giving the user some friendly guidance before they get started as to what they should do here. But again, if I type in something that's invalid, notice what happens. I get that message that really doesn't help me too much. So let's go back to my data validation one more time, to my error alert. Again, I'm going to leave it on stop because I want to completely stop them from entering invalid data. Invalid data could be my title. You have selected a mattress size other than the ones given in the drop-down list. Please limit your selection to those in the drop-down list. Now again, this drop-down list, what did I do? I just typed it into here on the settings tab for source. If I wanted to, I could put those into other cells on the worksheet, refer to those cells, and then if I needed to change that, I could simply change what appeared in those cells. Let's tell it OK, click away, go back to it. Notice I get my input message. I'm going to select twin, that's good. But now let's type in something that's inappropriate, and I get a message that's customized that says I've selected a mattress size other than the ones given. It tells me the mistake I've made instead of leaving it with that generic error message. And I'm going to cancel that. And that's another example then of data validation, particularly useful if you're creating a workbook and you're going to give it to someone else, and you want to make it hopefully where they're not going to mess things up. Or it may be useful for your own workbook. If you know that you're very likely to enter something which is incorrect and you might not catch it right away, you can use data validation to keep yourself from making some mistakes that would cause you problems later on. So the purpose of data validation is simply to limit what can be entered into a cell to ensure that only correct data can be accepted into that cell.